Okay, here it is. It's the chance, the big thing you've been waiting for. You want to learn chords, and I'm going to show you how to learn them very quickly, very easily. Just make sure you follow along with all of the steps in the book, and that you take each one of the tips that I give to heart and use them every time. First of all, you want to have perfect posture. You always want to build your chords from the top down, meaning that when you start a G chord, you're never going to put the high notes on first and then put the top notes on. Because you're always strumming from top to bottom, you can actually be building your chords as you're strumming down. So you might have a chord that you're not completely finished building, but you're starting to strum. That's why we start from the top and go down. You're always going to push down near the front of the fret. So you want to, if you're going to play in the 3rd fret, you want to be almost on that 3rd fret. You don't want to be back behind the 3rd fret. You want to be almost on the 3rd fret and go straight down, even pressure. And you'll get, if you get back too far, a lot of times you get a buzz, and you have to push a lot harder when you go back there, okay? You're going to curve your fingers like you're grabbing onto a ball, and you're going to make sure that you have a little tilt in your hand. I always use my thumb on top for most open chords, so you can do that too. It's pretty easy to do. If you get your thumb too far back, the posture goes out of whack. So you want to keep your thumb kind of hanging on the top. And you want to play each note of the chord. When we get involved in like the G chord, when you strum it, you want to play each note and make sure it's all good. You might have a few notes that aren't right, so you can adjust your hand, okay, over time. The other thing about that is, in the very beginning, you may have a couple notes that just aren't working. You notice this chord sounds pretty good, even though that note and that note are sort of muted out. So in the beginning, I want you to listen to your chords, but don't get too hung up on every single note of the chord. I want you to get the chord shapes memorized so you can play back and forth. So let's go to the G chord and let's form the G chord. Here's how you do it. From the top down, open up, line up, you grab the neck, you tilt your hand down just a tad around the 3rd fret. You're grabbing around the 3rd fret. So when you tilt your hand down, you're going to notice these two fingers are almost in place for a G chord. And you can read the chart in your book and you can see that the 2nd finger goes on the 3rd fret. The 1st finger goes on the next string underneath. And then you reach the pinky and the other finger down. So the big important part here is the posture. Once you line up your knuckles, you grab and tilt, keeping your finger straight right here. You're almost in a G chord. See, I don't move much to get to the G chord then. So try that over and over again. And when you're able to do that, you can strum. Strum the G chord over and over again until you feel really comfortable with it. Then take the G chord off, shake your hand out, put it back on, go through the motion, strum again. Take your hand off, shake it out, put it back on, go through the motions. Pretty soon the G chord will become second nature. Now, let's go to the next page and we're going to learn the C chord. Now, once you learn the G chord, the C chord is very easy to form because you're just going to move 2 fingers down, 1 each string. So let's make the G chord. Open up, line up, grab, tilt, put your fingers in place for a G, and once you get them in place, I'll give you a second to get the G in place. We're going to take the top 2 fingers, fingers 1 and 2, and we're going to pick them up and move them down each 1 string. So now there's no finger on the top E string, okay? We're going to mute that one out, but there's no finger on this top E. It's just open. Your fingers are now in the exact same position they were for a G, but we're on a C chord, the root note being a C. Sounds just like that. Now you can pick them back up and move them back up to a G. You can pick them back up, move each one string to a C. Now, there are two ways that we're going to address this muting of this top string. Now, I prefer to just mute the top string with the very tip of my second finger. It's kind of a fat finger, and you kind of position it a little bit higher on the A string, position it to where it touches that string. Now, up until this point, if you've touched a string and it's a problem because it's muting out notes, but now we're going to be selectively muting certain strings. We're muting that string on purpose, so when we strum, we can strum all 6, and the top one is muted out. So that's the first way to mute. The other way you can mute is with your thumb. You can just reach up with your thumb and just touch that string. It mutes it right out. Everybody's different. I like to mute with my finger, not my thumb, but some students like to use their thumb. Whatever feels most comfortable to you, most natural, go ahead and go for it now. That's the key. It's just to feel comfortable in the beginning here. Okay, so there's the G and the C. Make sure that you practice the G and the C over and over again. In the next lesson, we're going to be strumming between the G and the C.